Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Got a video here, update on what's happening out in Los Angeles from the iHip girl. So let's go to that and we'll talk about that on the other side.
The Trump administration is manufacturing chaos in California, and now they are detaining journalists in the United States of America. And the response from the left, from the courts, is lackluster at best. Let's play this video of journalists getting detained.
Wait 1 second, John. Hold on. I want to. Jason.
Yep.
What's going on? I hear you. Am I seeing Jason Carroll being? What happened, Jason?
I am being detained. I am being detained, Laura. I'm not being arrested. Correct, officers?
Did you hear what he told you?
No.
We're letting you go, but you can't come back.
Okay.
Because then if you come back, then you go.
Okay.
Okay, please?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, officer.
Take care. You too. Nice to meet you. Good luck.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
What happened, Jason?
If you guys can still hear me, what happened was Yes.
I'm Chris with the New York Times. We got video of you guys.
Oh, you did?
If you need it later,
thank you.
call New York Times.
I appreciate that.
I can hear you still, Jason. What's happening?
So here's what happened, Laura. The officer, I was called over, and the officer told me to put my hands behind my back. I said, am I being arrested? He said, you were being detained. I was walked out of the area. They took down my information.
Okay, we have free press in this country, but you need to remember that in Trump 1.0, he started priming the public that the press was their enemy. So this MAGA population, all of the trolls on the right, the deplorables, the trash, as they've been rightfully called, believe that journalists are the enemy. And these people are so craven, they are primed now for the United States military to be turned against its citizens. Whether you believe or don't believe in what people protest, we have a right to do it. You have a right to protest in this country. The press has a right to report on it. These are pillars of free countries. But Trump cherry picks. And he lies, and he's a huge hypocrite. So they're sending people in to go get non-violent immigrants now because they're trying to manufacture rage among the MAGA base. Meanwhile, look at what Trump is doing, who he's really giving immunity and access to the United States. Pop this up. While Trump and Homan are rounding up dads at Home Depot and waitresses with young children, Trump is making deals with drug cartel bosses to let their families move to the USA. So basically, if you're a piece of shit, member of a cartel that murders people and completely wrecks your hometowns of Mexico with organized crime, but you have made a lot of money, then you are prime to come to the United States under the Trump administration. Trump welcomes criminals while punishing the working class. And I want to say that again. Trump always welcomes criminals because he is a criminal, and he tells the working class that they are the problem, and he gets the working class against each other. All right, now we have a headline where Trump is upping it. He and Hegseth are sending the United States Marines to Los Angeles in this manufactured rage baiting that's going on in LA. Pop this up. In the next 24 hours, 700 Marines will reportedly respond to the LA protests. Trump orders in Marines in dramatic escalation of LA protests. This is bananas, but this didn't just happen in a vacuum. For decades, the Republican Party has had a very long campaign about demeaning blue states. and saying that blue state policies don't work. This is a lie and this is a myth. If you go from Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas down, and then go straight east, that is the Bible Belt. That is where all of the MAGA and Republican super majorities are. These states are the poorest, the worst healthcare, the highest crimes, the worst educations, the worst economies, the worst infrastructure, and on and on and on. MAGA policies don't work. All they're good at is propaganda to this base that doesn't like to critically think. So Democrats, why are you not attacking red state policies? Why isn't this a long-term game that you're playing? Because I live in a red state and we are ranked dead last in pretty much everything. But if you hear the politicians here, they propagandize and they tell the public that we're a top 10 state. The public buys into it. And 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, we had a Democratic governor. Our education system was ranked 19th. Now it's 49th or 50th, depending on which chart you look at. MAGA policies destroy states, absolutely annihilate them. So the reason this is going off in blue states is on purpose, because their base thinks that blue states are these sanctuary cities where all of these crazy immigrants are running around committing crimes. Meanwhile, the real criminals are being let in. These drug cartel leaders, the January 6th insurrectionists have been pardoned, and Trump is specifically attacking blue states. He's not in Texas rounding up people. He's specifically doing this in blue states because he has rage baited the public so much to start this little civil war. And he is absolutely priming the public. Look at this analysis from Jay and Keeve on Twitter. Sadly, Americans don't yet understand how this is going to go. It's about conditioning the U.S. population to seeing military on the streets and conditioning the military to being on the streets. Then it's on to asking military to commit progressively more brutal acts on those streets. This is just the beginning. This is all manufactured because we have fascists in the White House that do not want to give up power. They will do everything in their power to prevent the 2026 midterms. And I don't see many Democrats meeting this moment in a unified way. And there ain't no time like the present. This is the time to really start calling out all of this stuff and show unified fronts. This is an absolute danger. Here is Tom Homan, how he's manufacturing rage. ICE director admits he's rounding up people without criminal records. ICE director Tom Homan is admitting that now they are rounding up people without criminal records. The reason that they're doing that is because it's outrageous. And normal people with ethics and decency and conviction stand up for injustice. And when you stand up for injustice, you protest. And that's what they want. They want protesters. And in all protests, you have a few rogue actors that take it too far. Well, MAGA is going to myopically focus on that. They're going to get Fox News and all of the right-wing media echo chamber to only amplify that. And then they're going to say, see, we need the Marines. And imagine this. All of these people have gone on and on and on about how bad government is for decades. And now they are literally cheering for the government to go in and usurp the power of free people who are standing up to egregious injustices. The MAGA movement stands for nothing. It stands for nothing except for we all hate the same people. This is racism that has always been in the United States, that was starting to slightly have a reckoning with the election of Barack Obama, but it also really stoked a lot of racism and anger because people felt that a black man, imagine being so morally corrupt that a black man shouldn't be in the White House, and Trump knew that. And Trump felt that and he stoked it. And now it's all coming back up again. And they are literally intentionally going after people with no criminal record. And here's the thing, Trump's immigration numbers are terrible. Stephen Miller is furious that they're not rounding up enough people. So all of this is by design. All of this plays well in the MAGA media world. You see a lot of these right-wing podcasters saying multiculturalism doesn't work. Meanwhile, multiculturalism is the reason that we have smartphones and the internet and all of these things, but they are using coded white supremacist language. Now they're saying no more immigrants from third world countries. Well, surprise, surprise, guess what color all of their skin is? And then lastly, I have a tweet from complete psychopath monster Stephen Miller put this up. The political leaders in California and Los Angeles are siding with the insurrectionist mobs fighting to dissolve America over the heroes of ICE fighting to save America. Okay, this is just classic authoritarian gaslighting, saying that the protesters are insurrectionists. We all saw the insurrection against the United States government, against the peaceful transfer of power. And these people spit on cops, took a shit in the Capitol. Trump pardons them. Trump is letting all of these drug cartel family members come into the United States of America. And Stephen Miller, Tom Homan, Donald Trump are just the face of this. But behind this, you have a lot of people who are immigrants in the United States who benefited from every single loophole there is. And I'm talking about Rupert Murdoch, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel. None of them were born in the United States. Come over here, exploit every single imaginable loophole to make billions upon billions of dollars at the taxpayer's expense. And they are at the epicenter of starting the Civil War. None of this needed to happen. All of this is manufactured by Trump. The tariff, manufactured by Trump. All of this manufactured because they do not want to get to 2026 because they know they're committing crimes and they know that they will get impeached. So this is the fight right now that America has, and you have to decide what side you're on. This is beyond politics. This is beyond anything. This is a human rights issue for the very center of our democracy. So I hope that you all stay engaged now more than ever, and we'll see you all later.
You know, I doubt that if the reporter was working for Fox News that they would have bothered to arrest him or detain him, whatever. It's the same goddamn thing, okay? I doubt they would have gave much trouble to anyone that was working at Fox being there covering this thing. But we all know Trump has a friggin' raging boner here for CNN and MSNBC, and so do many people on the right wing. They hate that outfit because they don't kiss Trump's ass enough. Okay, I'm not saying that they've been really like coming down hard on Trump. They really haven't. But Trump considers them fake news, and that means he hates them. So, you know. You know what I'm going with that. So, but yeah, it's really, a lot of people are really getting pissy there about this, and rightly so, because there is no constitutional ground for what Trump's doing. In fact, there are lots of areas in the Constitution that would forbid this sort of thing. Okay, turning the Marines against the citizens. We specifically are not allowed to do that. Okay. And what Trump is doing is basically bullying everybody to comply with what he wants. And the inaction from Congress and the Senate here on this matter has really, really been sickening, I think. Okay, yeah, I understand AOC has been talking, Bernie Sanders and stuff, okay? But it has to go beyond these two, okay? You got to get more people up into this thing. And I feel like, what's the point of complaining about constitutional rules and stuff like that if no one is going to be there to enforce them. And sure, Gavin Newsom wants to sue the government over what's doing here. I don't know if Gavin Newsom has been paying very much attention, but the courts don't seem to have or carry much weight with Trump. And if he's not going to abide the rules, he's not going to abide by anything that a judge says of what he's doing. Okay? So I feel like there's really a point here where we're just going to have to say, look, we've tried to be peaceful. We tried to use the courts, and in both cases, Trump just fucking won't cooperate. So what's left? Okay? I'm not saying giving up, but I'm saying what's left. He doesn't like violent protests. Well, he's pushing the whole country to it. All right? And some people, I think, are saying this is being done by design, that's what Trump wants. Because if he can get the whole country fighting against itself, then he can declare martial law, then he can stop any primary elections, he can stop presidential, he can keep his fat ass in power and everybody else that supports him, okay? So we may not even the Democrats may not get a chance to even oppose him in the ballot box next year, okay? And it's because Trump knows. I mean, he may act and talk stupid, but he fucking knows that this country does not like him, okay? He knows that the vast majority of Americans hate his guts now, okay? So he knows all the Republicans are going to take some huge losses if they have those primaries, okay? He doesn't want that to happen. He doesn't want those primaries to happen. He's trying to escape them, okay? Now, that being said, if the courts are going to continue to be quiet and not say anything, and the primaries don't happen, will that be enough to spark people in the Congress and the Senate to respond? You know? I mean, how many more crimes does he have to commit before we say, oh, he qualifies for impeachment? He qualified for impeachment on day fucking 1, the day he took oath in office here, okay? He qualified for impeachment that very day because he was not qualified to be president. He has a big criminal background. He's involved with a lot of dirt, a lot of shit, okay, that would not pass, you know, the examination of, say, anyone else. If it was a Democrat, they never would have allowed that, okay? No Democrat with half the history that Trump has would even be sitting in the White House. The Republicans would have made certain of that. But here the tables are this way, and the opposition, you know, isn't really motivated, and the courts aren't really, you know, enforcing anything that they rule against him on. You know, I just feel like, you know, hey, what's the fucking point of fighting then? At least fighting peacefully, that is. The protests, I mean, the whole country, every single one of us could be out on the streets right now protesting. And do you think Trump would care? I don't think so. He'd go play golf. He'd do what he'd want while the country is out on the streets. All 320 plus fucking million Americans out on the streets protesting their fucking hearts out. Trump wouldn't care. And nobody in his administration would care either. They would just send in the fucking military saying, oh, they're all protesting violently. They're destroying property. We have to respond in kind. Okay? That's what he's wanting to do. Okay? He wants things to escalate. So, when he brings in the Marines, and he knows that if you put military in a hotbed situation, a gun is going to get fired, and then somebody's going to get killed. Okay? He knows this. It's what happened in Kent State, remember? You put enough violence around in the area, enough protesting, and you put guns in the mix, sooner or later, someone's going to pull out that fucking gun and bang. You know, and then the protests are no longer peaceful anywhere. They all become violent. Government buildings are going to be hit. Then before you know it, Trump's got to put a military all over the country to protect every fucking facet of the government, okay? And then basically swarm into areas of the country that are really heated up and just start arresting, shooting, killing, whatever the hell they got to do, okay? That's what he wants. And while this goes on, he'll declare martial law. This country's going to feel like a police state. And before you know it, we've lost everything. And the only thing left is for a violent uprising, which means everybody who has a weapon of some kind of, you're going to have to coalesce in groups and stuff, and that's what's going to happen. I mean, this is how civil wars start. Okay? This is how they begin. Trump's doing it by degrees, but when we look back, we're going to see that it wasn't a very long period between how it started and how it began with the war. Okay? But it always comes in layers. And like we've seen in many other banana republic countries that, have these uprisings, okay, they will go on and on and on, people versus government. The courts are going to be completely useless, all right? In fact, Trump would simply arrest all the judges, basically, and they would not be of any use to law-abiding citizens. Punishments will be severe. Appeals denied, okay, any crime, even like spitting on the grass, if they feel like that's wrong, they're going to arrest you, and that's it. They'll put you in a holding cell, you'll stay there. They're not going to fucking do anything, due process. That's going to be a foreign concept by next year. Due process won't exist. I mean, he's already got ICE agents going into the courthouses and snatching people out of the courts that have the judge already ruled on them, and then now they're gone. Or even before, they get a court date. ICE knows they got a court date. They're waiting right there for them. They show up, they go get them. Okay, again, that's impeding justice. That's illegal. Okay, they're not allowed to do that sort of thing. But with Trump, he says it's okay, and they okay it. I thought that there was a bit more integrity with forces in our country that are designed to protect us. Okay, I thought ICE would be a bit more respectful of what they're there for. Okay, but in this instance, they are being used as the strong arm of Donald Trump, and now he's trying to do that with the military. And I'm hoping that if ICE doesn't have the balls to do what's right and stand up to this fat orange pig, okay, that maybe people in the military will have more courage. I mean, I'm hoping, because where else are we going to turn to? Except other countries, pleading to other countries to send their armies into this country and fight it. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Okay, we don't have much choice. Choices are being taken out of our hands here. And it begins with him threatening the press, okay? So that way, information will stop coming out of these areas that are being hit. So nobody knows what's going on, okay? And, what it is a shot across the bow to the press. Like, if you come in here with and you start telling people what's going on, okay, and it doesn't favor me, then you're out of here. We'll detain you, arrest you, whatever. You're out of here. So the press is no longer free in this country, and that, too, is by design. Because when the public feels like they're being oppressed even by getting news that they can't get, I mean, they're just not getting anything out of these areas that's really informative, people are going to feel like, oh, well, maybe nothing's going on now and we can relax. Meanwhile, Trump takes that advantage, presses on, okay? And before you know it, you're waking up in a world that now you're surrounded by military. But I'm hoping, like I'm saying, I'm hoping that the military still has a bone in its fucking body, in its existence, that they still, when they take an oath to defend the Constitution, they actually mean it. Okay? Because if they don't, and Trump's got them doing his bidding, then we've lost. Well, I mean, basically, yeah, because then we are under a military regime is basically what we're going to be living like. And I'll tell you right now, when people see this fucking parade in Washington here coming up on Trump's fucking day of birth. Okay, when people see that on TV, it's going to bring back a lot of images and memories of the 80s, how the Soviet Union used to have parades like that in front of the Kremlin. And it's going to look really surreal, okay? But I'm telling you, there's another reason for that parade. And it's not just to, stroke off Trump and make him, because his birthday. It has nothing to do with that. What this is a blatant attempt to surround Washington, D.C. with the military, because they are preparing for an insurrection. And they want arms around that Capitol. Okay? Trump knows this. So, what's he do? He says, oh, well, my birthday's coming up. I want this parade. Now, who in their right mind would ask for such a thing? Okay? So, let's look beyond that. And look at this on what it is on the surface. Bringing in missiles, tanks, guns, all this shit into Washington, D.C. can only be for one thing. To secure the Capitol, all right? To protect it from insurrectionists that are going to want to oppose Trump. That's what he's doing. He's setting this up. It's like building a trench around the Capitol. Okay, he wants to arm it to the teeth. That's why he's bringing, because you won't see them leaving Washington. They are going into Washington, but they won't be coming out. Okay, they're going in there and they're going to stay there. They're going to plant their fucking defense perimeter around D.C. because they know this is going to get nasty. I told you at the start of the year, by summertime, it's going to get really ugly out there, and it's getting ugly now, okay? By the end of the year, I don't know what kind of an America we're going to have, but it's certainly not going to reflect what we had, okay? And there's going to be people fleeing this country here in larger numbers than have been already, okay? But I'm telling you right now, this is what this parade is really all about. It's to bring in weapons to defend the Capitol. Because Trump knows, and everybody that's with Trump all know that because Trump's approval number is lower than snake piss right now, that's a dangerous sign that the country is about to rise up. All right, and so they're getting ready for that. So, I feel like this is where we're headed here, people. We're heading for a real clash here between the civilians and the government. And this did not have to happen. There was no reason for us to come to this point in our country's history. This was all by design by a fucking nut who just, for whatever reason, thought, if I can't have this country, I'm going to burn it to the ground. Okay? I don't understand how people can feel like that, because you have to have absolutely no compassion at all for your fellow man to do what he's doing. All right? None of this stuff makes any fucking sense. We were doing fine when Biden left. Our economy was still growing. It was getting better. People had jobs. And practically overnight, look where we are. And what caused it? It's all just one answer. Trump. Trump is the answer. He's the reason, okay? He's done more damage to this country already than a fucking asteroid hitting New York City would have done, okay? He's done a whole lot worse damage now than we ever could have gotten any other time under any other president, okay? That's saying a lot, because we've had some pretty bad presidents in the past, but this guy takes the fucking cake and the icing, okay? He takes it all. And I'm just saying, we the people are being tested here on our loyalty to our country. All right? Our loyalty doesn't have to be to the president, because the president is the criminal. He is the disease that has to be removed. He's a criminal. This is what you get when you put in criminals for power. You get corruption, you get escalation of civil unrest, okay? You get abuses of power. You get the rules of law overlooked. The courts don't mean anything anymore. He's trying to consolidate all the power that he can get his hands on in his under his belt, basically. He wants to be the only law in this country. All right, which means criminals are going to have a field day in this country, because if they're doing something for Trump and, involves some crime like drugs or guns or whatever, hey, he's going to just look the other way and say, fine, It's all this talk about him trying to bring law and order into this country was all bullshit, okay? Because he certainly hasn't done that. He's actually made law and order a lot more difficult for the police in this day and age here. I mean, he really has. I mean, they're going to be doing double duties here just to keep the public in line if they can. But this is no time to want to be a member of the police, And I certainly wouldn't recommend anybody joining the military right now because I don't know what's going to happen. I'd hate to think that somebody's son, somebody's daughter is going to be called in one of these days with a gun and told to go into their hometown or whatever, their city where they grew up to, force people into obedience. Friends, neighbors, family members, whoever that may be, they're going to have to figure out what is right and wrong here. What you're being made to do. Would you have done that voluntarily if you knew that that was going to happen if you joined the service? I don't think many people would say yes to that. We're not supposed to be pointing our guns at ourselves here. We've got enough guns on the street as it is, but I'm just saying, we're not supposed to be fighting with ourselves in that fashion. We have a system in place to go to, for issues. But this guy Trump here, he's not interested in making things peaceful. Okay, he's not interested in that. What he's interested in is only just keeping his own ass out of the fire as much as he can. And like I said, it doesn't begin and end with him. You still have an administration that's eagerly following whatever the hell he tells them to do, and that's the other part of the problem. Any one of these cocksuckers here taking up a seat of power in Washington, D.C. will be just as dangerous as Trump has been already. In fact, they might even be worse because, with Trump being, riddled with dementia or whatever the hell he's suffering with here that's making him, unintelligible, okay? These other folks are younger and they're not suffering with anything. They're going to be more precise and more organized in what they're doing, which is going to make resisting even more difficult for the rest of us. So, like I said, this is really going to be a long fight here, and it's going to go on far longer than I think anyone in this country is willing or even willing to even consider. We're hoping that this is going to be done and over with by the midterms, but it looks like the midterms may be a thing that doesn't happen, I don't know. Only time will tell, but it's really going to hinge a lot on just how bad people want to continue to keep this country what it was before Trump became president 2.0 here. Okay. And it's going to fall on all of our shoulders, whether you like it or not. No matter how old you are, it's going to fall on all of our shoulders to pick a side. We're going to have to pick a side here at some point. And that means you guys are going to have to keep very close attention to what's happening. What's happening in Los Angeles is just the beginning. Just the fucking beginning. But the whole of America is going to look just like what's happening down there in a very short time.